So imagine a pie chart that represents Apple's focus for 2024. I think that 80% of it will be solely on the Vision Pro, with the rest being split among Apple's other product categories. The Vision Pro is what I'm personally excited for the most, despite only launching in the UK a few months later. However, Apple focusing heavily on the Vision Pro doesn't necessarily mean that we won't see any other big products this year. So here are the biggest product categories that Apple will be updating in 2024. And speaking of updates, we've now updated our January wallpapers collection with our 8th new pack, Lovely Locales by Vectory, featuring 10 iconic places from all over the world, such as the Taj Mahal in India, the Eiffel Tower in France, the Pyramids of Giza in Egypt, the Pelish Castle in Romania, a personal request of mine actually, and many more, all in 8K. Now, when it comes to what to expect from Apple in 2024, obviously one of the most anticipated releases this year, just like every year, will be the new iPhone 16s. If we start with the standard models, the changes will be quite small. The action button from the 15 Pro is rumored to make its way, alongside a new capture button that would sit on the bottom right-hand side, which, according to the latest leaks, will be used exclusively for recording video, and will allow you to use gestures for zooming as well as for focusing. The new A18 Pro chip will replace the current A16, although it isn't quite clear yet if this will be a rebranded A17 Pro or an entirely new chip altogether. And we are also set to be getting more RAM, 8GB compared to 6, just like the 15 Pros, which for me were a noticeable upgrade in terms of the RAM management. Wi-Fi 6E is also set to be added, just like on the iPhone 15 Pros, and finally, the back design of the standard models is set to revert back to the iPhone 12 style, according to some early prototype leaks. Now, when it comes to the Pro models, the biggest change is rumored to be the larger displays, with the 16 Pro increasing to 6.3 inches from 6.1, and the 16 Pro Max increasing to 6.9 from 6.7. Of course, with this, the bodies are also getting larger. But the good news is that even with the larger sizes, the 16 Pro Max would still be a tiny bit narrower than the 14 Pro Max. So if you guys are worried about comfort, yes, they will be less comfortable than the 15 Pros were, but still more comfortable than the 14 Pros. The ultra-wide module is set to get updated to a brand new 48 megapixel sensor from 12, likely enabling ProRAW 48 megapixel photos, while the smaller 16 Pro is set to get the same 5x periscope that the Pro Max model has. So if you guys prefer a smaller size, there won't be any camera differences this year. The Pro models are then rumored to come with double the storage this year, up to 2 terabytes. However, according to DigiTimes, the 1 terabyte models might actually have slower speeds than last year due to Apple changing their flash module supplier in order to save costs. Of course, the 16 Pros would also come with that new capture button and likely the A18 Pro chip for even more performance than the standard models. And finally, a new ultra-wideband chip is also rumored, as well as Wi-Fi 7, in the Pro model specifically, for speeds of up to 30 gigabits per second, according to Ming-Chi Kuo, which will be extremely useful when Wi-Fi 7 drops on the Max, as well as AirDrop could be significantly faster then. Moving on to the Apple Watch, the biggest change this year is rumored to be the Apple Watch Series 10, also called the Apple Watch X. We've made a full video about this before, in case you want to learn more about every single detail. There haven't really been any new leaks since that video of ours, but long story short, it is rumored to be the biggest redesign that the Apple Watch has ever received, with the band mounting mechanism also changing for the very first time. And on the plus side, this would make attaching bands easier and also free up space inside, although on the downside, you likely won't be able to use your old Apple Watch bands the same way as before. I do have a decently sized collection of Apple Watch bands, so I'm a bit sad to see this change, but I do understand why Apple's making it. They need more space inside. On top of this, the Apple Watch is said to be getting sleep apnea detection and blood pressure monitoring. Personally, I am quite excited for the Series 10, as I've literally had an Apple Watch on my left wrist for the past 9 years. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what this 10th anniversary edition brings new to the table. Of course, we are also getting the Apple Watch Ultra 3 this year. The only upgrade that's been leaked so far is potentially a darker color option. However, this darker color was also rumored for the Apple Watch Ultra 2, but we didn't see it. Even one of the prototypes for the Apple Watch Ultra 1 had a darker look. So my guess here is that Apple either had some production issues with its color, or they just wanted to save the black titanium for when they didn't have that many new features to add. And I feel like this year might be when we finally get it, as the chip got updated last year, so I don't think that's gonna change. Same for the display. the micro LED change is only rumored for 2026. And I do also expect that new band mounting mechanism, sleep apnea detection, and blood pressure monitor to also make their way onto the Ultra 3. And then we have the Apple Watch SE 3, which hasn't been updated since 2022. The only leaks regarding it come from an early 2023 report from research firm Omdia, who claimed that the SE3 would be using the same body and display size as the Series 7, 8, 9, which would make perfect sense, as the SE3 is currently using the same design as the Series 4, 5, and 6. So if the Series 10 does get a refresh, it makes sense for the SE3 to be one generation behind and then use the same design as the Series 7, 8, and 9. Nothing else has been reported in terms of the SE3, and I don't expect us to get a new chip or always-on functionality, as it looks like Apple wants to keep those for the higher end models. Moving on to the AirPods Pros are not getting any updates at all, as we literally just cut off on the USB-C case in late 2023. However, we will be seeing some updates when it comes to the AirPods 4, where our government reports that there will be two versions of them. Both will feature a new design that is said to be a blend between the current AirPods 3 and the Pros, with a shorter stem than what we have now, with the higher end model featuring noise cancelling, as well as a new case with speakers and Find My functionality. So very similar to the AirPods Pros, with the only exception being the in-ear design, and I'm assuming that the sound quality will also be a bit superior on the Pros. And aside from the AirPods 4, we are also expecting a new version of the AirPods Maxes, where Mark Gurman claims that we are getting some new colors as well as a USB-C port. And the second of which is pretty much a no-brainer, as Apple does have a end of 2024 deadline to switch all of their products to USB-C. But unfortunately, nothing else has been mentioned. Still, I do expect us to get the new H2 chip, just like the second-gen AirPods Pros. And then we have the iPads, which didn't really see any updates at all in 2023, which, fun fact, is the first time that has ever happened in the history of the iPad. The biggest change this year is the iPad Pro, which is getting a brand new design for the first time since 2018. We don't yet know what specific design changes it will have, but MagSafe charging was one of the rumored changes, which might point towards a glass Apple logo on the back, and I would also expect the bezels to be made thinner this year. The main upgrade, however, is rumored to be the display, which is getting bumped to an OLED panel on both models, alongside the new M3 chip and a brand new Magic Keyboard that would have a metal cover in order to make it look more like a MacBook. However, all of this comes at a cost. All the reports that I've seen were pointing towards an almost doubling in price, with the most recent January update claiming a $1,500 starting price for the 11-inch OLED iPad Pro, with production having already started and the potential release in April. The iPad Air is also said to be especially exciting this year. There's a larger 12.9-inch model that's said to be introduced that will give users a more affordable large-screen iPad. So a similar approach to what Apple has done with a 15-inch MacBook Air. There's also a recent CAD model leak that's showing a redesigned camera module, which, interesting enough, is very similar to that of the leaked iPhone SE4 design. Separate video on that over here. Aside from this and the switch to the M2 chip, there are no other changes expected. Then we have the iPad mini, which was last updated in 2021 and is rumored to be updated this year with the A16 chip, as well as updated front and back cameras, Wi-Fi 6E, and Bluetooth 5.3. Oh, and remember that jelly scrolling effect that a current mini suffered from? Well, that's said to be addressed too. The last iPad model that's said to be updated is the entry-level model, with an A15 chip, not an A16, from the current A14. These are the biggest categories that Apple will be updating this year. Now, of course, there are also some Mac updates coming too, although those are a bit smaller, so we will be talking about those in a separate video. And in terms of when you can expect to see these products, the iPad Pro and the Air will be announced in March, the iPhones and the Apple Watches will be in September, and then the iPad mini and the entry-level iPad are likely going to be announced either in September or at a separate October event. Let me know which one of these products you're looking forward to the most. I'm Daniel, this has been ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.